Hello everyone, my name is Lowko and welcome to a professional match of StarCraft 2. Now what I've got for you is a Terran versus Zerg where we find ourselves on Disco Bloodbath. Spawning here on the right hand side of the map and playing with the blue Terran SCVs. From Mexico, we are looking inside of the main base of SpeCial. His opponent on the left hand side playing with the red Zerg drones, we have none other than soO. Alrighty, now I hope you got yourself a drink already because this is honestly one of the best games of Terran versus Zerg that I have ever seen. It was recently played during the round of 16 of the World Championship Series, and while I already have seen the game, it was played at 5 AM over here in Europe, and well, not necessarily the most friendly time zone either for those of you from North America. So I can imagine a lot of you have not seen this game yet. It is a good one, so if you haven't got yourself a drink already, I highly recommend you pause for just a second, okay? Just go ahead and do so because you are in for a treat. Now, since I did already watch it and I do know the outcome of it, I want to especially pay some attention here to some of the finer details of the matchup because there's no denying that Terran versus Zerg right now is very, very good. It is definitely my personal favorite matchup in SC2 right now. I mean, basically, here's the thing, right? Every single unit has a place in the TVZ matchup. There's a massive variety of build orders, there's a massive variety of strategies, and in general, there's a lot of different unit compositions as well. I really enjoy watching and casting this matchup because there's just simply so much happening here. Already, actually, a little bit of a curious start for SpeCial. Rather than going for the Reaper right away, he decides to go for a later Gas Geyser. Still does have a Gas Geyser, so I guess he will go for the factory in just a little bit. But he now opts to go for a Reactor first. That does allow him to pump out the Marines 2 at a time. But obviously it also means that he's not going to have a whole lot of scouting information. So this must be a build that he's very, very comfortable with. Or maybe it's something that is meant to snipe the very first Overlord. Now speaking of which, normally, right, on this map, we see the players sending their Overlord straight towards this ramp right over here. So Zerg players can figure out where the factory is located, what kind of structures and add-ons and whatnot that the Terran player has. However, in this case, SpeCial is going for the Reactor opener. soO has decided to send his Overlord towards the northern section here of the main base. Very curious start. There's this weird, like, Overlord versus Marine mind game, since when a map first comes out, right, Zerg players will usually go for the optimal way of sending their Overlords, but then Terran players figure out exactly what that optimal way is, and then they decide to try and snipe down the Overlord pretty early on as well. So this is already a little bit of cheeky play here, where both players are trying to outsmart each other. soO technically going for the inferior Overlord positioning, although maybe since this map is pretty good for, like, for example, like Battlecruiser openers and whatnot, maybe he's wanting to, like, scout out, like, a fusion core that is usually put behind the mineral line in the main base. Already a pretty cool start. Nothing, though, that's really all too worrying at this point in the game. Standard 3-hatch opener here from soO. He's gonna go for that quick Zergling speed here as well, leaving 2 drones in gas, and that indeed now allows him to go for a pretty quick Overlord speed upgrade too. Maybe that's actually the reason why he's keeping that Overlord over there, so he can scout the main base pretty much freely, as most of the time the Terran defenses are set up in the natural by the time that Overlord speed is done. Now, Overlord speed was made down to 75 gas pretty recently, so it used to cost 100 minerals and 100 gas. Nowadays, it's 75 minerals and 75 gas, and Blizzard has actually announced now that they are once again going to change it, very likely back to 100-100 in the next patch, because it's becoming a little bit too popular. So Overlord speed is massive, right? You can basically scout out everything. Now, look at this. SpeCial knows. That is such a high-level move here. I really want to emphasize that. It doesn't look like much, but this is SpeCial very much so not playing the matchup, but very much so playing the opponent. He now also manages to load up these medevacs, well, with the units inside of them, without actually being spotted there by the Overlord, but I guess the Zerglings saw everything that's going on anyway. So even though it was a very high-level move, it kind of got accidentally scouted there by soO anyway. Now, 2 SCVs ended up going down. 1 Overlord is badly bruised. 2nd Overlord now available here in the natural as well. So really needs to get that one out of here. Is he just going to lose it? That is very sloppy. Don't lose that one. Oh, really? Oh, poor guy. Anyways, the 3rd command center, though, was spotted. We do even see a couple of spore crawlers coming up right now. Link's inside of the main base, though. And a couple of queens here on the low ground too. They're going to be able to start bruising this medevac. And yeah, SpeCial decides to run away. You don't really want to take too much damage on the medevac. You don't have anything here to repair it. And obviously, if the queens get, you know, even a sniff of it, they will shoot it out of the sky. And that's going to mean the end of half this Terran army right over here. Bailing that's coming up as well. And actually, you know what? SpeCial, after going for a couple of Marines here in the early game, and you guys know how much of a fan I am of this kind of style, he's now transitioning towards mech. I've talked about this a little bit over the last couple of weeks, but this is a strategy that has become pretty popular recently. Now, it gets scouted out immediately by soO because, well, he's a very good player. He knows exactly what's going on and what the Terran players are capable of. But if this was me playing the Zerg pieces right now, right? I've seen, like, I think a Widow Mine as well, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, a Widow Mine was killed, a Marine, there's 2 medivacs and all that. I would look at this and think, huh, that's gonna be a bio-based Terran army, right? This is like some sort of weird variation of like a 16 Marine drop or something along those lines, but there must be Stimpack and whatnot coming up. It's not the case. There's actually now a couple of factories coming up as well for the Terran player and a transition towards double armory. Now, nice bit of aggression here. SpeCial is gonna start, I think, focus firing down some of the drones here in that mineral line. The queens desperately trying to transfuse each other. A lot of Zerglings are just about to come up, but 17 drones end up going down, also due to this one Liberator inside of the main base. That one will also be able to get on out of there. And, well, that was a beautiful bit of aggression there from SpeCial. Not a build that we see all too often, but you can see it works out like a charm. He loses a bunch of units, does lose, obviously, a couple of resources because of that too, but he certainly has been able to build up his own economy while keeping the Zerg player contained. Now, that third command center is actually misplaced. Please fix that. We're gonna pay attention to that. Please, no, it has to go 1 square to the right. That's actually very painful. Like, that could... Okay, he notices it. I was gonna say, like, that could negate a lot of the work that you have just done. Anyways, even though, obviously, a lot of drones were killed here, a lot of Terran units also found their graves. When it comes to the total resources lost, I'm certainly favoring the position here of the Terran. But already there's now a transition here from soO that's also pretty uncommon, and it does get scouted. We see a Zergling drop inside of the main base and a transition towards Mutalisk. So, there's so much happening, right? There's so much to unpack here. This is so far from your standard, like, Hydraling Bane style that we saw a little while ago. Both players are technically playing strategies that are inferior just to try and outsmart each other. The differences between this and, like, the quote-unquote best build, it's gonna be minor, but it is gonna be noticeable. But they're just trying to outsmart each other, playing builds that are just a little bit worse, and then hoping that the opponent is gonna either underprepare or overprepare. Anyways, these Mutas, though, that's a weird one, right? We don't really see Mutas, especially against mech. Even though soO scouted mech, he still decides to go for the Mutalisk. Now, the Liberators are actually just about to move out. There are missile turrets set up in the mineral lines. I guess, you know, Liberators have a pretty good anti-air option as well, right? They're not quite Valkyries, they wish, but they can deal a little bit of splash damage. There you go. And these Mutas are actually in a little bit of trouble. I don't think they really get a whole lot done here. Now, what they are getting done is that they're buying time. Look at the production tab. Just a handful of Mutas, and immediately Zerg is at 80 workers. 85 even is what the total is going to be here in a little bit once the next group of Mutalisks finish up. And even though the Mutas didn't really get a whole lot done, and they weren't a very favorable trade whatsoever, the majority of them managed to get out of there, and the 4th base has been acquired pretty much for free, and I think that soO's now also looking to go up to a 5th hatchery as well. He's now transitioning towards Roaches, going +1/+1 and Hive at the same time while getting bailing speed. Like, the priorities are kind of out of whack, but I like it. I hope I do a decent enough job explaining, like, why this is weird, right? Because this is not a build that you will see very often on the ladder. Now, actually, oh, you know what? This is another move like that. You know there's Mutalisk out. You still decide to go for a medevac, loaded up with a couple of Hellions. Now, the reason for that is, yeah, he knows that it might be hard-countered on accident. But he also knows that this medevac is going to lose value right now, because, I mean, you're not actually going for Marines. So you may as well try. At this point, Hellions also not that valuable. You want to go for gas-heavy units. These Hellions over on the right-hand side, though, will be cleaned up just fine. At the same time, there is a hit squad right here of Cyclones and Hellions on the left-hand side of the map, too. Thought maybe we wanted to move on over towards that newly acquired 5th base. Pretty curious as well that actually the Zerg is now deciding to take the 4th over here, rather than the one on the low ground. Normally we see this as the 4th base instead. In the meantime, though, on the side of SpeCial, he has been happily macroing up. He's now making... I was going to say off of 5 factories, but he's building up 2 starports, both with tech labs. He already has one with a starport or with a tech lab, and then also a fusion core. Great Aspire is coming up at the same time, but this smells to me like Battlecruisers. Now, if there's one unit that's not very good against you know, or if there's one thing that Brute Lords rather are not very good against, it is certainly Battlecruisers, right? They can get shot out of the sky just fine with the weapon refit, with the Yamato cannon. Once again, by the way, this time a Hellbat drop here. I guess the Hellbats, well, they were morphed in from Hellions. Zerk is still busy skirmishing in the center of the map as well, trying to deny some of that creep spread is SpeCial. Looks like some of the units will end up dying, but nothing too crazy. A lot of multitasking here happening. Both players trying to deny some of that mining as well. Now, even though there's a Battlecruiser transition coming up, 3 Battlecruisers are being built at once. They are 400 minerals and 300 gas each, plus the cost of the fusion core and then also the Yamato cannon, right? That's a very expensive set of units that he's getting right now. There's still a bunch of siege tanks bravely sitting in the middle of the map. Now, I don't think this is a very serious push from SpeCial. He's gonna have to get on home because he did see those Brute Lords right there morphing on that high ground with that one medevac that just lost its life. Now, while the siege tanks and the Cyclones are retreating, once again, we have a couple of Hellions threatening a run by on the right-hand side. Blue Flame is done at this point. Looks like the drones will try and run. A couple of the workers fall so far, but I think that soO should be okay here. Probably gonna be able to clean all of these up. Lost 5 drones at this point in the game, not that big of a deal. This is a curious style, though, from Terran, right? Look at the amount of workers. There are 94 SCVs available here for SpeCial. That is more than you normally want at this point. But I'm assuming at some point here, he's going to replace a lot of those SCVs and drop mules instead. So right now, because he's getting all that mineral income, he can start adding on a lot of additional command centers. I don't really know exactly at what moment he wants to go for orbital commands over SCVs. But I think we're coming up on that, because 94 workers is a lot. Now, likewise for soO, he's pretty much also got half his supply caught up in workers. That's a very, very high amount. Have the Battlecruisers been spotted yet, though? Because 3 of them just finished up. Let me see what soO has seen. No, he does not know. Now, he must realize that something's not quite right, because that Terran army is looking remarkably small at this point in the game. He's playing very, very cautiously. This is clever, though, right? So, SpeCial is trying to move in with the Battlecruisers at the last possible moment. There is no anti-air here for soO. So, well, I guess he's got a couple of mutas, a couple of queens and spores and all that, right? But technically speaking, this whole army could have been killed here. But SpeCial was waiting until the last possible moment to pull the trigger to send in the BCs. Ooh, I don't know if it was spotted right there. Well, I think they will be spotted right now at the very least, if he is paying attention. But there's not a lot of anti-air, and while SpeCial may have been able to get something done, soO also figured out that something was not quite right as he retreated with those Brute Lords too. Now that was a nice pickup there for the Zerg. Getting a couple of those siege tanks for pretty much free. Now adding on a lot of additional Corruptors too, because he knows he's gonna need them if he wants to deal with those Battlecruisers in particular. And there we go, the Battlecruisers have moved forward. They're now target firing down on top of all of those... Ooh. There you go. A couple of Corrosive Balls do hit, but he's target firing down a couple of the Brutes. Right now targeting instead some of the ground units instead. I mean, they have extremely high fire rates, right? So a Battlecruiser attacks very, very quickly. You just now could see on the left-hand side of the screen a couple of upgrades finishing up as well. Basically, for every single upgrade that you get on these Battlecruisers, especially attack upgrades, every single little missile will deal additional damage. It's massive. Looks like, by the way, the Cyclones now cleared the job that those Hellions started earlier. They have just now killed a hatchery over here, and they also managed to take down 4 drones at this point in the game. Now, honestly, like, killing a hatchery here, yeah, it's going to slow down the Zerk economy and all that, but there's another hatchery right over here. This is much more significant. Hitting at one site, not that big of a deal, because those units can just simply be rerouted, or, I mean, if you don't kill the drones, they will just simply continue mining here as soon as the hatchery is done, or they will just return their resources a little bit slower. This is a much bigger deal right now. Picking up 2 bases, I love it. Really, really nicely done. At the same time, though, the mutas have grouped up together with the Corruptors, and the few of the Brute Lords that still remain are now bravely flying forward. I don't know if that's really something you want to do. There's the Yamato cannons coming up. And that's a Brute Lord out of the sky. Second Yamato cannon, third one also coming up. All of these Zerg flyers get shut down. At the same time, the Ravager Ball moved on over towards the planetary fortress right over here. It recognized, though, that it is a planetary, not gonna continue fighting. That's a scary amount of BCs, by the way. There's 10 of them in total right now. Still 2 coming up. And right now we see the big transition as well from those Cyclones and Siege Tanks towards Thors. So most of the late game of Terran versus Zerg is certainly going to be all about air units, right? Now, Thors are very, very good. That was no council, by the way. But Thors are very, very good when it comes to sniping down flying units in particular. They have a lot of range. I don't know if there's going to be enough Corruptors right now, but I guess we will find out. Yamato cannons immediately utilized. Is he going to jump away? He will. There you go. Good work. Good work. The BCs, they do decide to go back on home. And while a couple of Hellbats also killed 9 drones there. Actually, still quite nice. soO is going to be able to breathe for just a little while. You know what I would love to see right now? I was thinking about this when I saw this one Overseer here in the bottom right-hand corner. I think one of the things that SpeCial would do at this point, and what for example, Raynor would do as well, I think they would go ahead and start up like a Nidus Worm. I would love to see a couple of like Zerglings running in here, or a couple of Roaches running in here as well. The Corruptors right now using that caustic spray ability to try and go after the planetary. Looks like they will be successful at exactly that. A couple drones once again ended up going down, by the way, for the Zerg. I guess a few SCVs will also find their grave over here, but SpeCial doesn't really care. He's now going to go for a transition here towards Ghost 2. So normally, right, Zerg players will transition right now towards Spellcasters. We will see Vipers and then also Infestors from some of the top level Zerg players. However, soO right now, he doesn't have any of that. Very curious. I think as soon as he sees the Thors, he kind of needs to. Like, you're not going to counter Thors without Spellcasters. You need either Vipers or especially Infestors. Neuroparasite is the way to go. Here we go, though. He does still have a scary amount of stuff to simply target firing down as much as possible. Actually, now the Liberator's coming in from the bottom, dealing a lot of splash damage. Normally, their anti-air is pathetic, but that was a brilliant engagement there for SpeCial. Normally, it's free to basically, like, clump up all of your Corruptors because the splash damage that Battlecruisers deal is non-existent, right? That was beautiful. Couple of the Liberators coming in from the south, they dealt splash damage there to those clumped up Corruptors that were target firing down the BCs, and they dealt a tremendous amount of damage. Right now is when we finally see the Pathogen Glands upgrade coming up here for soO. That's the Infestor Energy upgrade. There's a couple of Vipers now also building, but I kind of feel like that's late. Right now, we are in the scenario where Terran is already up to a very, very nice unit count. He's going up to a lot of additional bases. Is that the main command center? It's not. It's just a newly acquired command center. It's an orbital. That's really greedy. Anyways, he's gonna try and see if he can land over here and just mine it out as fast as possible. Mules do a very good job at exactly that. Already, and I was thinking about this earlier as well, all of the units in StarCraft 2 get used right now in this matchup. Well, except for the Protoss ones, I suppose, but Ravens, while not very common in TVZ, they certainly do get used in the late game. One Ghost right there going down. A couple of Zerglings also biting away at these SCVs. But at this point, you don't really mind. Like, you don't want to have too much supply caught up in SCVs anyway, right? So he's right now down to 66. He has not been remaking any of them. Just going for the mules to mine those minerals instead. He's maxed out, so the bank will come here all on its own. A couple of Zerglings will find out that the new base is mining here, or at least trying to be made. In the bottom left-hand corner. Also not going to happen. As the SCVs both die. Hellions right now thrown away. Do you think at some point you want to, like, stop making Hellions entirely? I wouldn't mind just seeing a full-on focus right now on flying units. Basically go for the most gas-heavy army. Now, speaking of a gas-heavy army, this army here of Terran is insane. There's a medivac here loaded up with a couple of ghosts as well, so they can be used for EMP primarily. Abducts here are massive. Abducts here are huge. He's actually going to go for parasitic bombs instead, so he's going to soften up a couple of these Battlecruisers. Once again, good target firing. At the same time, though, you see that beautiful orange paint? That is from those Ravens. The Ravens actually landing the anti-armor missiles there on top of those Corruptors, meaning that they will take significantly more damage. And while the Sport Colors is set up right there on the low ground, this base over here is quite vulnerable. Oh, Yamato cannons, very, very potent. And so far, it looks like the Corruptors, while they try their very best to see if they can go after that army. They did not manage to do so. I think primarily because of the anti-armor missile. Your Corruptors just simply take so much more damage. It's very significant, in particular against Battlecruisers, since they attack so very fast. Every single missile will just deal tremendously more damage. I would still love to see a Nidus Worm. I know I'm going to keep pointing this out, but I would love to see a Nidus Worm. Zerglings, moving towards the top right-hand corner. The one downside of a Battlecruiser fleet is that it's pretty slow. I mean, you can't just use Tactical Jump nilly-willy. Tactical Jump does have a long cooldown. And, yeah, well, this command center is gone for sure. So, I'm actually curious right now. What is the trait like? Okay, yeah. So, Zerg has lost more resources. Now, normally, I would say that's okay, because Zerg usually mines more resources, too. However, I'm not so sure that that is happening in this particular game so far. I mean, now with the base in the bottom left-hand gone, and the one in the top right also gone, that's a bit of an issue. I would love to actually see Terran try and secure this expansion right over here. Zerg is mining more, but a lot of that mining has been the Knight. Smart servos, making those Hellbats transform from Hellions significantly faster. Special still maxed out, still with a very scary army. Finally, right now is when we see that infested transition. Honestly, that's a little bit too late to me. I really would have loved to see that sooner. I can guarantee you that, once again, I know I bring up the other top-level Zerg players a lot, but I can guarantee you that all of the other top-level Zerg players would have gotten those already. So, both Neuroparasite, he doesn't actually have Neuroparasite. Oh, he doesn't have it yet. He needs to get it. Neuroparasite and then also Fungal Growth are very, very helpful. Fungal Growth preventing Battlecruisers from tactically jumping. I think that's what he wants to go for here. Couple of infested Terrans also land, and then the Fungal Growth. Once again, though, that orange paint does get applied, and we see a massive sky battle. Terran player desperately trying to land as many of those, what are they called? Like the Yamato cannons as well, but that is a lot of dead Terran units. Couple of Liberators joining in for the splash damage as well. Now with all of those infested Terrans on the ground, though, yeah, soO does manage to hold on. I'm quite surprised that that Special decided to stick around for that long. Kind of felt like he was overstaying his welcome, but then again, he doesn't have that much mining anymore. So I think he needs to go back to his plan A. I think he needs to go back to securing bases and trying to outmine Zerg. Because right now he lost a lot, and Zerg is mining top right and bottom left. That's a big deal. I mean, he does need to send some of these workers. All of these bases are so low, though. Ooh, this is a scrappy game. Now, the reason why, by the way, I would have loved to see those spellcasters a little bit sooner is because spellcasters, they regenerate energy, right? They usually don't die in combat, or at least not all of them do, whereas like Corruptors and for example, Brute Lords and Ravagers and all that are a little bit more disposable. The spellcasters are the units that you sort of keep around for as long as possible, because they gain more value as they regenerate energy. Right now, since both players don't actually have that much income right here. If you look at the income, I mean, I'm getting like 2,500 minerals right now as the Terran player, at least when it comes to minerals and all that, but they really are not getting that much money. So the more cost efficient an army is, the better that is as well. Couple of Hellbats moving over towards the base right over here. In the meantime, Special is trying to acquire this expansion right over here. Corruptors, though, managed to kill the orbital command. I'm really quite surprised we see an orbital command. Like, doesn't that feel a little bit greedy? I mean, this base is literally bordering creep. I would have loved to see a planetary here, but I guess he's just flying one of the command centers that he had set up over here. Obviously, planetaries cannot fly. Alright, so Special's economy is not the greatest, but his army is still looking menacing. He's just about to finish up +3 as well, which is going to help out a lot. He already has +3, I'm assuming, for the flyers. Yeah, he does. It's going to make everything just more powerful. I guess at this point it doesn't help out too much. Maybe like the auto turrets or something. Alright. Another battle is looming in the top right. This is actually a very important expansion right now for Zerg. This one likely will not live. Love the fact that SCVs were brought along with this too, by the way. You can repair Battlecruisers while in combat. Love the fact as well that the ghosts are inside of a Medivac. It's kind of like High Templar in a prism, right? He's basically only landing them to land EMPs whenever he needs to. That's kind of what you need to, what you do as well with High Templar. Keeping them safe inside of the plane. soO decides to just simply let the bases die. I guess that's an okay choice, if it wasn't for the fact that this base over here is mining, which actually soO does not know. I think soO is assuming he's a full base up on his opponent, so he's just sort of letting this happen. But in reality, he's actually in a bit of a dire scenario. I really feel like these two bases were very, very important for him. Yeah, he's just waiting for the Terran army to leave. That was definitely a critical moment, though. Dude, this is actually kind of crazy to me. Like, the fact that this base is not in vision is kind of huge. Because this will make a difference. This will certainly add up over time. soO ended up losing a bunch of drones once again. 88 workers were killed in total in this game. He's only got 46 workers remaining. That does mean that his army value, though, is massive, right? If you look right here, soO has 144 army supply, whereas SpeCial has 111. Although I guess, technically speaking, the SCVs were helping out in combat there, too. Never really a good sign, though, when Zerk has to go back to, like, Zerklings here out of desperation, right? I love Zerklings for run-bys. I would love to see... Yeah, okay, he's gonna scout it, finally. He's not gonna be happy when he finds out about this, though. You're never happy when you see 5 yellow mining machines here as the Zerk. Yeah, okay, immediately more Zerklings come over here, but he can click on the minerals to see how long this has been mining. And it's been mining for a while. I don't think even SpeCial assumed that this would be mining for this long. So rather than throwing more money at Zerklings, he's now instead spending his minerals on adding on additional anti-air in the form of spore crawlers. That is a decent amount of infestors, 8 in total, but not too many. Would love to see him add on more, but he doesn't have the gas anymore at this point in the game. It's all gonna come down right now to the mining, I guess, over here, right? In the top right. Alright, liberation zones are being set up, trying to zone away. Queens are actually spreading the creep. These probably have been around since the beginning of the game. They are spreading the creep just to try and help these spore crawlers inch forward. More spore crawlers coming up as well. SpeCial trying to counter the spores right now with missile turrets. Missile turrets obviously also serve as detectors, so he can see where those infestors are burrowed if they were to burrow. It's critical right now for the Zerg player to try and get a good engagement, right? Like, you cannot just simply throw away units anymore. All of these Zerg units are extremely expensive. Likewise, though, for the Terran player, if you accidentally get one of those Battlecruisers abducted, that's a huge loss. Love this. I love the fact that SpeCial decided to actually send a couple of his Hellions towards the top right-hand corner to try and kill that base. Still, though, this is a slow push if I've ever seen one. This is a patience practice. You need to meditate at least 2 hours before you can pull this kind of strategy off, okay? Keep in mind, they are playing for a lot of money here. The fact that soO is slow pushing with creep and spore crawlers says something. Well, there we go. Finally, he's feeling brave enough. Battlecruisers start nibbling away here at the missile turrets. He knows that some of that fleet is stuck in the top right-hand corner. Ooh, medevac trying to see if it can find a couple of those infestors. Just decide to send them back. The Brootlings trying to connect as well with whatever is going on over here. But he doesn't want to go too far. No, you can't really go too far forward. You need to fight with the spore crawlers. Top right and base, once again retaken. Base in the bottom left. Oh my god, really? he blocked himself. Good job, you played yourself. Well done. Now, if the medevac were to unload the ghosts and he manages to land an EMP on these infestors and maybe even a Viper, he can just simply go ahead and attack, move, and fight. Right now, though, with these spellcrosses in their mix, they provide a lot of additional damage. 159 army supply here for Zerg versus 142 for Terran. Keep in mind, Terran can always go ahead and push as well, or pull as well a couple of those SCVs. Yamato Cannon, by the way, can target fire down spores. Liberators do not attack structures. Once again, both players trying to outsmart each other, right? Trying to use some of that multitasking. But really, we all know that the pressure points are right over here. Yeah, there's some harassment over here. 17 additional drones end up going down. But I think that this game will come down to the main fight. Is SpeCial just abandoning it entirely? Maybe he's trying to go around. Zerk doesn't really know exactly where the Terran fleet is located. But that adds a lot of spore crawlers right over here too. Terran does not want to fight over there. Yeah, it looks like he's actually just gonna make his army move towards the bottom left-hand corner while these Brute Lords are massacring his base. Don't get greedy, soO. Do not rain the infested Terrans. You need to get the energy up. So, the Battlecruiser fleet has now moved on over towards this base right over here instead. The whole Terran army is basically over here. Terran's gonna try and now apparently do a bit of a victory lapse here for some of these SCVs as well. Sending them towards the other side. In the meantime, the drones are also transferred towards the top right. This is a weird thing, huh? 30 minutes into your Terran versus Zerk. And there's a high five round between drones and SCVs. Okay. I think that was a very difficult move, though, to make for SpeCial, right? Because there's no denying that fight, it could have gone in favor of the Terran, but with the Spore Crawlers present, he did not know for sure. Terran does not want to fight with these spores. Right now, he's forcing the attention of Zerk towards the bottom left-hand corner, but this Zerk army is slow. If he can pick up a couple of these units at once, just a couple here and there, that would be massive. By the way, still would love to see a Nidus Worm. I mean, it's a little late now, but would have been cool. Would have been cool 5 minutes ago. And also 25 minutes ago. Base over here gets acquired. SpeCial's doing a little bit of a dance right there on the orbital command. With this, though, he now also secures the base in the bottom left-hand corner, right? So, he gives up one expansion here. Gives his opponent one base. However, he takes 2 bases back himself. Believe it or not, guys, I did the math. 2 is greater than 1. I know. I'm a math expert. Wait. Do we only just now see flyer carapace upgrades? Whoa, that's huge. I cannot oh, dude, I cannot. What happened there? Those upgrades for Zerk are trash. I mean, and not to like criticize soO too much, but that is absolutely massive. He must have forgotten about them. Or maybe he thought that this game would end before that came into play. So the math on StarCraft, right, is damage of a unit plus upgrades of the unit minus the armor of a unit minus the armor upgrades for a unit. We can get into specifics at a later time, but it basically means that these Corruptors right now will take like twice as much damage from these Battlecruisers than they absolutely need to. Just simply getting +3 here would have been massive. Zerk, by the way, did manage to get the Spore set up in the bottom left-hand corner. SpeCial managed to get the base in the bottom left too, like the far bottom left, that is. This one over here, though, still fine. soO is mining a little bit again. Center of the map, though. Here we go. This is the big engagement that we were looking for right now. Terran is fighting without the Spore Crawlers present. I mean, there's a couple on the ground, but the majority of them are not here. Yamato cannons are going down left and right. We do see the infested Terrans also joining in. SpeCial actually technically jumping the weakened and the attacked Battlecruisers to try and get maximum value. Anti-armor missile utilized on top of all of these Zerk flyers as well, and that means that they will take even more damage than they would have. Even though they don't have attack or armor upgrades, rather, they still are taking so much damage, more so than they absolutely needed to. Only a couple of Corruptors remain. SpeCial found the engagement he was looking for, and I think it just barely went in his favor. Very, very, very closely in his favor. He's now actually going back to making SCVs. He was 6 SCV, or he had 6 SCVs coming up there at once. Interestingly enough, there's like a clump of SCVs set up right over here doing a whole bunch of nothing. Actually, some of the command centers are rallied over here, where previously were mineral patches. Okay, good fight there for SpeCial, but he's not out of the waters yet. Infestors still remain. Honestly, guys, like, watching this game for the first time live, I did not realize that there were 2 things that are going terribly wrong here for soO. He does not have Neural Parasite, and he also does not have flyer, like, armor upgrades. He's finally getting it right now, but that is way too late. I cannot come up with a single reason why he could not have had that. Both of those things would have been massive. I mean, when you're forced to use infested Terrans to try and clean up these Hellions. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you get a fungal. Now what? You can't follow it up with anything. Oh, unless the Hellions sacrifice themselves, I suppose. Wow. That is amazing. SpeCial's limiting resource here, I suppose, is gas, huh? One refinery still stays alive. Long distance mining, that one with a command center on the high ground. If he can take control, though, of a couple of these BCs with Neuroparasite, that would be huge. But the fact right now that he wasted energy on these infestors is kind of crazy, right? Like, if you can Neuroparasite... If you Neuroparasite 2 of these 3 Battlecruisers, that would be massive. 7 drones right now end up going down as well. I think SpeCial is smelling blood in the water right now. He's still harassing. He's harassing and multitasking like a god. I mean, I'm assuming he did see that. Yep, there you go. The drones tried to burrow, did not quite happen. And that means that Zerk will go down to single digits worth of workers. Only 2 drones remain. They're desperately hiding right out here. It's like, dude, you want to marry me? I'm assuming drones propose using minerals, okay? At the same time, the Zerk army has made its way towards the bottom left. They're gonna force these command centers to lift up. SpeCial does not really have a whole lot of mining anymore, but he does have one major advantage, and that is air units, right? So how do you counter this as Zerk? I can really only come up with infestors. Like, Neuroparasite is the only reliable way here. Or, like, making 50 Corruptors, but there's no way he can even afford 5. How many infestors remain? 4. Okay, so he does have 4 infestors with Neuroparasites on, well, like half this Terran army. The Battlecruisers, that is. He could certainly still grab this. Keep in mind, there's also a lot of Spore Crawlers set up. And Zerk is still mining, whereas Terran is not. Like, there's no mining happening here for Terran at all. If you look at the income, 0, 0, 0. Well, okay, 55. Fair, guys. Okay, don't make fun of me, SpeCial. No need to bait me like that. I think this is smart, though. I think SpeCial can actually take 2 bases. He doesn't really know exactly how much the Zerk has. So I think that's probably why he's playing so cautiously. He doesn't really know exactly how much Zerk has at this point. Like, in the mind of a Terran, I'm pretty sure there's like 20 infestors hidden on the map always, somewhere. You never really know, but yeah, technically he could definitely take this base right over here too. But he needs to slow push, right? So this missile turret here is actually critical. Having a couple of missile turrets set up so you can detect any burrowed infestors is massive. They're set up right over here. Keep an eye out on those. I think they're going to be critical in the next fight. The fact that this is on a high ground, though, is really nice because that means the creep doesn't spread there. Right? Like, it does spread there, but you can't really, like, send the creep tumors very easily. And therefore, the Spore Crawlers can't just all uproot and move onto the high ground. SpeCial finally finding some additional resources here. He's still making Hellions. I feel like this is like seeing Zerklings at this point in the game, you know? It's like, yeah, it's nice and all, but is it, though? I guess considering a pretty big chunk of the Zerk army here is made up out of ground units again. I guess going for Hellions is not necessarily a bad idea. I still cannot believe he's only at +1. Oh, here we go, by the way. Neuroparasites have been activated, but already that we see some beautiful Yamato cannons queued up. And if you actually queue up the Yamato cannon first, yeah, if you queue up the Yamato cannon first and then the Neuroparasite connects, the Yamato cannons still go off. So he jumped right there. Let me actually go back. I'm kind of sad I missed that final engagement. Okay, so this is a few seconds before the end of the game. By the way, I'm casting and observing at the same time, so sometimes I miss engagements. Yeah, I try my best. So here we go. He gets a scan right over there. He scans all around, trying to figure out if there's any more infestors hidden. Immediately jumps on top of them, queues up the Yamato cannons, and even though Neuroparasite connects, the Yamato cannons were already channeling, and they will get shot out of the ground. Beautiful final moment there for SpeCial. Extremely well played. Now, if I can be critical, right? And I'm not claiming here that I can do better than soO. I mean, unless you're like Serral, Raynor, Dark, or Rogue watching this, right? I don't think a whole lot of us are better than soO. The fact that he didn't get Neuroparasite there until very, very late, and the fact especially that he did not have maxed out upgrades there for his flying units was absolutely massive. Only +1 carapace there. So the way that it works, right? The way a Zerk, or the way a unit in StarCraft 2, period, deals damage is by the base damage of a unit plus the upgrades. Now, I don't know the exact number of a Battlecruiser, but say every single Battlecruiser missile deals like, I don't know, 5 damage. I'm pulling that number out of thin air, right? But basically with plus 3 upgrades, it deals 5 plus 3 damage is 8 damage per shot, right? In a hypothetical situation. Now, the way that armor works is that the actual damage that a unit deals, so in this instance 8, gets subtracted by the amount of armor plus armor upgrades that a unit has. So say a Corruptor has 1 base armor, and in this case it had 1 additional armor, it's gonna actually take 8 minus 2 damage. Now, obviously, if you were to take into account plus 3 armor upgrades, it would be 8 minus 4 instead, which is like the difference is massive, especially against fast attacking units. That's one of the reasons why we usually do not see, for example, in Zerg versus Protoss, Zerg players going for armor upgrades because all of the Protoss units attack pretty slowly. But against Terran, you do see carrot-based upgrades coming up all the time, just because Terran units attack very, very quickly. Like, for example, Marines, right? Or like, for example, Battlecruisers. All those units attack very fast, and because of that, armor upgrades are preferred. I really wonder what those engagements would have looked like if soO did have those upgrades. I think it would have been very, very different. Regardless, SpeCial is the one who obtains the victory here. I hope that you enjoyed watching the game. If you did, make sure you hit that like button down below. And if you want to see more, you know what to do. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you get notifications as soon as I upload more. A special shout out to the Patreon supporters. Thank you very much for your generosity. But for now, I want to thank you for watching. Have an amazing day. Do not forget to smile, alright? And I'll see you once again in the next one.